For the 6th season in a row, Walters is the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast, located across the street from the ballpark, just off South Capitol Street.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Here's the pitch. Swinging a long drive. Right field. Back goes the right fielder Suzuki to the wall, and it's gone! Into the Nationals bullpen. Nats lead it 2-0. Number 29 for C.J. Abrams. He got a hold of a high-hanging sweeper and smashes it over the wall off the back wall of the Nats bullpen. And the Nats off to a good start here against the Cubs.
Now the set of the pitch. Breaking ball ripped over the head of the leaping third baseman House down the left field line toward the corner. It's cut off by Pinckney. 1 run will score. And the Cubs now lead by the score of 5-3. It's a double for Suzuki.
Next delivery. So he has drive straightaway center and deep. Young back, looking for the wall. He climbs the wall, can't get to it, it's gone. Right over the low wall, just to the right of the 402 mark, and it's 8-4 Chicago. Suzuki with home run number 20.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Nationals Park, where we on Tuesday evening had on display 2 high-octane offenses. The top 2 teams in MLB's 2026 regular season in runs scored as of games through Monday were the Washington Nationals and Chicago Cubs. The Nats were number 1 at 643. The Cubs were number 2 at 614. And we on Tuesday evening in Game 1 of a 3-game series for the Nats against the Cubs at Nationals Park saw these offenses on display. Now, the Nats did lose an 8-6 loss, ending the Nats' 3-game winning streak. But this was a game in which each team hit 3 home runs. This was a game in which at least 1 run was scored in 10 of 18 half innings. This was a game in which Nats pitchers combined for a whopping 187 pitches. If you like seeing Nats pitchers throw pitches, this was the game for you. The Nats now are 59-62 run differential of plus 22. The Cubs now are 70-50 run differential of plus 109. The Cubs lead the National League wildcard standings. Good to have you with us. So always enjoy hearing from you. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website that you can check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. Have we seen pitcher Miles Mikolas make his final appearance for the Nats? Well, he on Tuesday evening was used in a true relief role for the first time during his time with the Nats, and he, after the game, was saying his goodbyes. Mark, you noted that in a post on X late night on Tuesday night. Nothing is official, but it sure does seem like what we had anticipated might happen is happening, and that is the Nats are cutting ties with Miles Mikolas.
Yeah, here's what we do know. Jackson Kent is going to be called up from AAA and make his Major League debut on Wednesday, starting that game. Obviously, a corresponding move has to be made. It was not announced after the game, but as we were all in the clubhouse interviewing Jake Irvin and other players, it was pretty clear you could see and hear Miles Mikolas saying goodbye to everybody. So I don't know what the exact terminology will be of what the move is, but it does look like his time here is done. And potentially, given where he's at in his career, this could be the end of his Major League career, as we speculated once he hit the 10 years last week. Now, we can get into all the ramifications of this, but I'll just say Jackson Kent's being called up to take Zach Littell's rotation spot. They've already used Andrew Alvarez to take over Foster Griffin's rotation spot. If Mikolas is gone, that's another rotation spot that will have to be filled. That spot would come up probably over the weekend in New York at some point. Could they call somebody else up? Yes. Could they do a bullpen game? Yes. Could we see Brad Lord, as I believe you suggested the other day, be stretched out into more of a starter's role? The answer to that is yes, that is on the table and a possibility, according to Blake Butera earlier in the day. So we still have to see how that's all going to play out. But just so people understand, the Mikolas likely move is not Jackson Kent taking over his spot. There's still another rotation spot ultimately that they're going to have to fill.
Yeah, I am excited about this Brad Lord news because it is feeling like Brad Lord is about to re-enter the Nats starting pitching rotation. We'll see. But, something stood out watching the game on Tuesday evening on Nationals.tv. Dan Kolko, when the Nats brought Miles Mikolas into the game to pitch in this true relief role, brought up the Nats potentially stretching out Brad Lord to be in the rotation. And, I don't know if Kolko said that because he knows some things that other people maybe don't know, or if he was just kind of speculating, but he connected the two instantly. He talked about Mikolas pitching in relief, and it was kind of like, that's interesting. And then he mentioned, Brad Lord maybe being stretched out. And so it does kind of feel like this weekend might be the Lord's Day when it comes to Brad Lord being back in the rotation. So Mikolas comes into the game in bulk relief. Now, obviously, we have seen him pitch in bulk relief previously this season, but that was, when the Nats used the opener strategy. In this game, he gets used as a true reliever. We'll get into why. He did well, 1 run in 3 innings. So if this was it for Miles Mikolas with the Nats, he goes out on a relative high note. Did give up a homer, which is apropos, right? He gave up a ton of homers here. Top of the 8th, gave up a one-out opposite field solo homer by Seiya Suzuki to right center to put the Cubs up 8-4. But, ultimately, Miles Mikolas with the Nats, 25 games, 11 starts, ERA of 5.82, whip 1.38, 27 home runs allowed, 4th most in MLB. He was an extremely likable player for the Nats, I thought anyway. But bad stats, age 37 season, 1-year contract. Parting with him is totally understandable, makes total sense. It's nothing personal. He reached his 10 years of Major League service. There's nothing wrong with this. I think this is the right way to go, and I think it's going to be so interesting to see what becomes of his spot in that starting pitching rotation.
Look, we were talking in mid-April, how much longer does Miles Mikolas have on this team in this rotation? So this was always intended to be a short-term move. Remember, he was the one they signed right at the start of spring training, bargain basement price $2.25 million. And then it wasn't until several weeks later that they signed Zach Littell. And at that point, you're saying to yourself, well, do they actually need both these guys? If they knew they were going to get Littell all along, maybe they wouldn't have signed Mikolas. Now, it turned out they did need them because Josiah Gray suffered his injury right at the end of spring training. And so they had both those veterans in their rotation for quite a while, even while the team was playing well, even though the two of them were not necessarily performing extremely well. They each had their moments, but I think deep down we always knew that these guys were not part of the long-term plan. They were here until there were better options, younger options in particular. And so now you got one of them in Jackson Kent making his debut on Wednesday. And as I said, we'll see whether Luis Perales at some point is getting called up, although he had a rough start for Rochester on Tuesday, didn't make it out of the 2nd inning and threw a bunch of pitches. So I don't know that he's knocking on the door necessarily. So the way it lines up right now, and Butera kind of hinted at this pregame, they are open to the idea of stretching out Brad Lord. Now, that doesn't mean he just immediately is able to give you full starter's length, but they could kind of take the tactic that they did Sunday in the bullpen game and just have him go a little bit further. Maybe he goes 4 innings in that game, and then the next time after that, 5, and then maybe 6, and see how it goes. I think at this point, they're open to any and all ideas. We have seen these guys do not feel constrained by traditional pitching roles. They will try whatever if they think it will work and give them a chance at winning a game. And they are still, in spite of everything that's happened, still trying to win games right now. And so Brad Lord as a quasi-starter could be part of that plan.
Well, look, there right now is extreme opportunity when it comes to starting pitching roles for the Nats this season and moving forward. I mean, if I ask you right now, who do you feel really good about in terms of feeling certainty about that person being in the Nats starting pitching rotation come opening day 2027? Beyond Cade Cavalli, who would you say? Connolly early if healthy, but he's got to get healthy, okay? Until he gets healthy, I don't know that we should be assuming anything with this guy. And then who? And then what? There is just wide open real estate here for people to rise up. And so Who is going to make up that Nats opening day starting pitching rotation for 2027? Going to be so interesting. Obviously, there are some options in the minors, as you just outlined. Of course, there is the possibility of the offseason acquisition. But of course, with that, there's great uncertainty given what we know about ownership spending in recent years and given what we know about perceived looming CBA Armageddon. So who knows? But this is about as wide open as I can ever remember a Nats starting pitching situation being in terms of relatively late in a season, eyeing the next opening day. What are we looking at when it comes to that 2027 Nats opening day starting pitching rotation?
It is very much wide open. It's why I was talking about leading into the trade deadline, the idea of hanging on to Foster Griffin, because you're going to need a starting pitcher anyways. And maybe the guy if he's willing to re-sign, is worth prioritizing over the unknown of whatever else might be out there. They can go from within on a lot of this, but I do think, and we've got a long way to go, obviously, but I got to believe that they will be looking externally for at least one starting pitcher this winter, even if it's on another one of these short-term, low-cost deals. Maybe there are legitimately in the free agent market. I don't know. We got such a long way to go to figure out what's going to happen there. But internally, Cavalli, yes. You want to believe Connolly early, but it would sure be nice to see him actually pitch. By the way, he did start playing catch again, so that's at least some progress there, and he hasn't been totally shut down. That's good. And I'm going to throw another item that kind of ties in with all this that I'm sure people are going to be interested to hear, and that is Jarlin Susana. Remember him? The fifth prospect from the Juan Soto trade, who almost exactly a year ago tore his lat muscle and was out for the rest of the year, had surgery, rehabbing all this year. He finally pitched in a rehab game for Single A Wilmington on Tuesday night. 1 inning, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, topped 100 miles an hour, which is what he does. Only 14 of his 28 pitches for strikes. The key there, was he healthy? Does he come out of it feeling well? And you move on from there. I'm not saying he's in their opening day 2027 plans. This is a guy who, before he got hurt, had just reached Double-A. So he's still got a lot to prove, both from a health standpoint and a performance standpoint. But we've been talking for a few years now about the 2 big name, legit top pitching prospects in the organization, Jarlin Susana and Travis Sakura. Susana is finally back pitching. Sakura is probably looking at next year when he makes his full return from Tommy John. Neither of them big league ready, but names eventually we are going to be talking about in 2027.
September 2028, Jarlin Susana, 8 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts. Giovanni Cruz, a perfect 9th inning, 3 swinging strikeouts. Average velo from those 2 pitchers in that Nats outing as the team makes a push for the postseason, well above triple digits. Would love to see that. Perhaps we will. Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
The 1-0, Glasser's running, the pitch outside, throw to second, coming home King, the throw back to the plate, not in time. King dives in with a steal of home, and the Wings have tied the game at 1.
Hey, Al Galdi here for Window Nation. If you're using chat to research your next home improvement project, forget the prompts. We've got all the details on a company that you can trust. For replacement windows and doors without the hassle, just look up Window Nation. Window Nation is the real deal. Homeowners across the country love the one-day installation process, especially since Window Nation installers leave your home cleaner than when they started. And this month, you can get 50% off all window styles, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 2 years. That's a lot of savings on top of quality windows and doors. 866-90NATION or windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Window Nation, the real deal when it comes to replacement windows and doors. 866-90NATION, windownation.com, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
A payoff pitch on the way, swinging a long drive to right field. Forget about it. It is gone. Goodbye. What a blast to right field by Pete Crow-Armstrong, up over the bullpen. Number 27 for Crow-Armstrong, RBI number 72. It's now the Nationals 3 and the Cubs 2.
Well, you may have noticed in our Nationals starting pitching conversation over the last few minutes, we did not say the name Jake Irvin. Where are we with Jake Irvin, and are we seeing his final days with the Nats? Jake Irvin was the Nats starting pitcher on Tuesday evening. He lasted for a mere 3 1/3 innings. He officially allowed 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings, during which he threw a staggering 88 pitches. Let that sink in for a moment. 88 pitches over 3 1/3 innings. Now, he threw a good number of strikes, 56 strikes, 32 balls. But a big part of that was the Cubs fouling off 25 of Irvin's pitches. Also, Irvin gave up a whopper of a home run. Top of the third, gave up a leadoff full count homer by Pete Crow Armstrong off the facade of the third deck in right field to cut the Nats' lead to 3-2, despite Irvin having had the man known as PCA down in the count at 1.02. So from 0-2 to 3-2, and then a mammoth homer. The homer went a projected 437 feet per Statcast. But Jake Irvin now at the major league level in the 2026 regular season. 14 games, all starts, ERA of 5.79, whip of 1.32, pitches per inning of 18.08. He was out for more than 2 months due to a right shoulder strain, but he's having another rough season. What is his age 29 season? He is under team control through the 2029 season. With the caveat of, we have a ways to go, things can change, blah, blah, blah. We last season wondered if he might get non-tendered. He did get tendered. I think, again, this has to be a conversation of, if you are the Nats, do you this coming offseason non-tender Jake Irvin? Because he's not giving you much reason right now to say, yeah, we want to see more of this, or yeah, we want this guy as part of our starting pitching plan moving forward. This has been a tough season for Jake Irvin.
It's really very similar to what we saw the last 2 years, particularly in the second half of the last 2 years. There's not a whole lot of progress there. And yes, missed time with the injury, and so maybe you give him a little more rope here. And, as we just discussed, they're not awash in pitching options right now, so I don't think he's going anywhere probably for the rest of this season. That might be his last best shot, though, to make a real impression on the front office to say, yes, I should still be a part of your 2027 plan. Now, remember, not acquired by the new front office. They inherited him from the previous administration. And we know that ultimately they probably are looking at more of their own guys than the ones that they were given. But they've always had an open mind with everyone and said, if you can go out and perform, well, then yes, you can become a part of our plan as well. I think in his case, what you saw, particularly in this game, and it's not the first time we've seen it from him. Yes, all the credit to the Cubs lineup, who you outlined as one of the best in baseball. They're number 2 to the Nats in runs scored. They're number 1 in the majors in on-base percentage. And you saw that in this game. They don't chase. They take their walks. They work some tremendously long at-bats. The 25 foul balls was just crazy. But some of that is Irvin's stuff just not being good enough to induce more swings and misses when he puts it in the strike zone. And this has been a recurring issue for him for several years now. He has had the ability to be successful at times because he does throw strikes. He has been a workhorse in the past, but he was always able to get weak contact, and he was always able to turn to his breaking ball when he needed swings and misses, and he has not had that the last few times, and certainly not in this game. So, you want to give him some more opportunities. Obviously, there's a very tough lineup that he went up against, but I feel like what we saw in this one is very similar to what we had seen from him late last season, late the previous season. And at some point, for a guy who's arbitration eligible and the salary is going to, probably be north of $5 million, I would guess, next year, is that the wisest investment? But if it's not, that's another spot you got to find. You got to fill that rotation spot somewhere. And we're already talking about how they're short on pitching. So it does create a little bit of a dilemma here. It's easy to say you can do better than that, but you got to go find the guy who is better than that, in addition to several others, it looks like.
To round out your Nationals pitching in this game on Tuesday evening. So ultimately, 4 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Tom Cosgrove officially tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He and a Cubs 3-run fourth faced 3 batters, got 2 outs, but he to the second batter he faced gave up a 2-out RBI double by Seiya Suzuki to left field for a 5-3 Cubs lead. We had Max Kranick allowing 1 run in 1 inning. He and a 35 pitch, top of the fifth, allowed a run on 2 singles and 2 walks. He threw just 19 strikes versus 16 balls. Orlando Revolta allowed 1 run, 1 inning, top of the sixth, gave up a 2-out solo homer by Alex Bregman to left field for a 7-4 Cubs lead. But when we had Jake Irvin throwing his 88 pitches, and then we had the Max Kranick inning, that 35 pitch top of the fifth, I mean, I said to myself, we're looking at 3.5 hours easy with this game. It's actually a minor miracle that the game ended up only being, and I put only in quotation marks, 3 hours, 4 minutes. I mean, this was ridiculous how many pitches Nats pitchers were throwing, especially over, say, the first 5-6 innings of this game.
Yeah, you mentioned what the total was for the game. What was it, about 189?
187, yeah.
187. Well, 133 of those were in the first 5 innings alone. That is a staggering total. Do the math there. It's not hard to figure out. That's 30 pitches per inning, basically. You can't sustain that at all. And I mean, yeah, they were giving up runs, but it's not like it was a ton of walks. It's not like they were just getting their brains beat in. The Cubs were just working everybody with these long at-bats, 8 pitches, 9 pitches, 10 pitches. And even Irvin, go back to the first inning. He retired the side, and he did it on 20 pitches. It took 20 pitches against 3 batters, nearly 7 per hitter. And that right there, even though there was no damage, it did kind of foretell what was going to come the rest of the way. This was a slog of a game for their pitching staff.
Next offering, swinging a long drive, left center field. Cor Armstrong back on the go to the wall, and it's gone! Dylan Cruz homers over the left center field wall. Cuts the Cubs lead to 6-4. Cruz hits double digits, home run number 10. He got a hold of a splitter and put it in the second row over the left center field fence. Nationals' 3rd homer tonight against Imanaga.
Well, the biggest bright spot for the Nats in this 8-6 loss to the Cubs at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening was the offense. It was good. 6 runs, 11 hits, which were 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 6 singles, 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did draw just 1 walk, did strike out 10 times, but the Nats again got to a good opposing starting pitcher. The Cubs starting pitcher was Shota Imanaga. He allowed 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He did have 5 strikeouts versus no walks, but the Nats hit 3 homers off Imanaga, who came into the game with an ERA of 3.60 over 23 games, all starts. We have talked about this ad nauseum, but like this bears worth repeating. The Nats in this season number 1 of being all in on analytics are so well prepared for opposing starting pitchers, routinely humble good opposing starting pitchers, and on Tuesday evening humbled Imanaga. CJ Abrams, he was the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, 1 for 5 with a 2-run homer. Abrams and a Nats 2-run first, so another good first inning for the Nats. A 2-out 2-run homer to right field to put the Nats up 2-0. Dylan Cruz homered. He is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, 1 for 5 solo homer. Cruz and a Nats 1-run fifth, a 2-out solo homer to left center to cut the Nats deficit to 6-4. That homer going a projected 414 feet per Statcast. Jacob Young homered. He is the Nats starting center fielder and number 6 batter, 2 for 3 with a solo homer and a double. Young in the Nats 1-run second leadoff homer to left center to put the Nats up 3-1. That homer went a projected 427 feet per Statcast, as he now is at 10 homers off entering this season with a career 5 home runs. Now, his rate of homers has really slowed down. Remember, he was on a tear a few months ago. The rate has slowed down, but he does finally get to 10 home runs, doubling his career home run total entering this season. We had Brady House getting on base 4 times. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 3 for 4 with 3 singles and a walk. And we had Jorbit Bibas coming through as a pinch hitter. We have not seen that often this season, but he and a Nats 2-run 8th had a pinch, 1-out, first pitch, opposite field, RBI single to left field to cut the Nats deficit to 8-5. Now, this was a wild play. The play initially was ruled a catch by left fielder Ian Happ. It looked like a great catch, but the ball did bounce, so this was a hit. But man, Happ made a tremendous effort on the play. And then we later in the inning got a really nice catch by right fielder Seiya Suzuki. But good job by Blake Butera challenging the Bibas, a single that wasn't, turning it into a single that was.
First pitch, swinging a line drive to left. Happ coming in into a slide. Did he make the catch? He did, tagging at third house. He'll come in to score on a brilliant diving catch by Happ, robbing Bibas of a base hit. Nationals will look at a replay. For the moment, it's a sacrifice fly and an RBI, and it cuts the Cubs' lead to 8-5. But the Nationals are going to challenge that catch.
The call on the field is overturned. There's no catch.
Bebas now, as a pinch hitter this season, has an OPS of 449. We have seen him flop in so many pinch hitting opportunities, but he does come through there. The Nats offense overall does well. 3 home runs. Hard to complain about that. Early offense, too. This was looking like maybe one of these games in which the Nats got to 8, 9, 10 runs. Ultimately, the total is 6. That should be good enough to win, but of course, in this game was not.
Yeah, there was some very good offensive approach from them in this game against Imanaga, who, as you said, pretty good pitcher. And that's the power they got with the 3 home runs, but it was also some long at-bats themselves, and they gave themselves some chances. Now, kind of this recurring theme, yeah, they hit the 3 homers, but they had more opportunities with runners in scoring position. They stranded them in the 5th. They stranded them in the 6th. They did finally come through in that 8th, but there was a chance for even more, and they didn't get it. And that Bebas hit, the crazy part of it, it wound up not costing them, but it looked like it might. So the hit takes place with runners on 2nd and 3rd, and it's initially called a catch. And so the runner on 3rd, Brady House, tags up and scores. The runner on 2nd, Harry Ford, went back. Now, when the call's overturned and it turns into a hit, obviously House scored anyways, but the umpires, or specifically New York, decided that Ford was not entitled to advance a base on a hit. And so you have a single in which the runner did not advance. And the way that's supposed to happen, it's a subjective call. And you're basically supposed to say you place the runners where you think they would have been if the call had been made correctly. And I guess the philosophy there is saying the trap of the ball was uncertain enough that Ford would not have been going. And Blake Butera argued a little bit, no avail, didn't get all that heated or anything. It could have really cost them with the runner on 2nd. They did end up scoring him later on when Nasim Nunez singled him home, but there was a scenario there in which that could have been very significant to them, that subjective call on the replay overturn would not have allowed the runner to advance to 3rd.
And then Dalen Lyle, when he smoked that ball to right field, first of all, it looked like it might be a home run. And then you said, okay, well, maybe it's an extra base hit. And then Suzuki makes such a nice play, took such a perfect route. You know, one of the things on display in this series is the Cubs defense. The Cubs are superb defensively. If you go by the latest data on Baseball Savant, the Cubs are number 1 in the majors in team outs above average per StatCast at plus 58. The next best team, the Arizona Diamondbacks, at plus 29. So let that register. Cubs number 1, plus 58. Diamondbacks number 2, plus 29. The Cubs are double the next best team in terms of outs above average. The Nats, in case you're curious, minus 14. But you see what great defense can mean. And with the Cubs, so much of it is great outfield defense. Pete Crow Armstrong is maybe the single best defensive player in the sport. But just in that inning, with what Happ did, with what Suzuki did, you saw how good that Cubs defense, especially the outfield defense, is.
We've talked so much about how the Nats, for all their offensive success, have not necessarily been good at coming back late in games. They haven't had a walk-off win yet, but they haven't had a lot of, retake the lead in the 8th kind of situations. When that ball went off Lyle's bat, I had the same thought as you. That's at least a double, maybe a home run. And, oh man, they might actually pull off a full comeback here against the other team's back-end relievers. And it was because of the catch by Suzuki that it probably prevented that inning from being even bigger. It sort of killed the momentum there. You take the Cubs lineup, which is nearly as good as the Nationals, and add elite defense to it, and that's why they're in such a good position. Yeah, they're not going to win the division in all likelihood because the Brewers are outstanding as well, but they're in very good shape to take the top wild card spot. And you mentioned the run differential over 100. They should be considered in the same class as the top 3 division leaders in the NL with the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Brewers, and should have just as good of a chance of advancing in October. I think there's a clear delineation from them to all the other wild card contenders. And, I think we saw firsthand in this game just how good the Cubs are.
There very much is a big four in the National League, right? Dodgers, Brewers, Cubs, Braves. I know the Dodgers have been struggling lately, but I still would put them in a big four. But after you get past those four, there's a bit of a drop-off, shall we say, in the National League. So a very interesting game, too, for this series. Nats against the Cubs at Nationals Park Wednesday evening at 6:45. The Nats are going with Jackson Kent as their probable starting pitcher for the game. He'll be making his MLB regular season debut. The Nats took Kent in the 4th round of the 2024 MLB first-year player draft out of the University of Arizona, and he is having an impressive season just from a standpoint of climbing the organizational ladder. He this season has pitched for AA Harrisburg, AAA Rochester, and as of Wednesday evening, the Nats at the major league level. So going to be mighty interesting to see what the Nats get out of Jackson Kent on Wednesday evening and perhaps moving forward.
Yeah, now, look, this is maybe not a name a lot of people have heard of. He's not one of their highly rated prospects necessarily. He burst through the system, as you just outlined, and really took some strides this year. He is someone that the new front office has been able to maybe get more out of, increased his velocity. He throws a bunch of different pitches. I'm not going to say he's Foster Griffin because there are very few guys who do what Griffin does, but there's maybe some similarities there in that not necessarily having that one overpowering pitch doesn't blow you away with velocity, but understands how to pitch, throws a bunch of different types of pitches, and is going to get his shot now against, as we just said, a really good Cubs lineup. It will be very interesting to see how this goes. This would not seem to be a one and done situation where they call up a guy, let him make his debut, and then send him back down because they don't really have other options right now. So I think he should get multiple opportunities. Is he ready for it? Can he handle it? We're about to find out. You don't get major league debuts from starting pitchers all that often, maybe once a year for this organization. Let's see how he does with it, and maybe he is somebody who can be a part of the 2027 plan.
And Miles Mikolas, a salute to you. We will never forget you wrestling Nate Eaton. We will never forget the great RBI sack bunt. A salute to you, whatever is next for you. Thank you for your service.
It was fun to cover, and we almost had one more moment in this game because all those pinch hits that they did, that Blake Butera ran, it actually made them forfeit the DH again. And guess who was the pitcher at the time and was officially in the lineup? If this was the last game of Miles Mikolas' career, he will show up in the box score as being in the lineup. He was due up 6th in the bottom of the 9th. Now, before I get too excited, they did still have Keibert Ruiz on the bench. If it came to that, Ruiz would have pinch hit for him. And so Mikolas would not have had the chance at the walk-off. Wouldn't that have been something?
That would have been a chef's kiss ending to Miles Mikolas' tenure with this team. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Jackson Kent on the mound here for Game 2. Who pitches, swung on and missed, and how about that?
Kent 0-2. On the outside corner, got him looking, inning over.